Here's a shocking fact. If you turn up the volume on your phone by just a single notch, there will be 100% more sound energy hitting your ear. But to you, it'll only sound about 20% louder. And the reason for that difference is that your brain's actually been lying to you about this. And it's a lie that could be slowly destroying your hearing. Let me explain. Imagine you're in a dark room with just a single light on. If you add a second light, the room gets noticeably brighter. But now imagine that there are 5 lights on and I add one more. The room didn't get that much brighter, did it? In this case, you probably wouldn't even notice a difference. But why is that? In either case, the same amount of light was added, but in only one case did we notice a change. Well, the reason for this is that there's actually a disconnect between how bright something actually is and how bright it seems to us. Check this out. When light hits our eyes, the size of our pupils, followed by a bunch of other boring processes, help determine how bright something seems to us. But that processing doesn't treat all levels of light equally. This graph shows how much light something releases and how bright it seems to us after all that processing. 1 light will seem this bright and 2 will be this bright, which is a big jump. But between 5 and 6 lights, that jump is much smaller, which explains why we didn't notice the change earlier. But why does our vision look like this? Why doesn't the graph look like this instead? Well, if this were the case, then low light conditions would seem much darker than they are, and brighter conditions would be absolutely blinding. So over millions of years of evolution, all those processes have evolved in a way to maximize our visibility and help us survive. And the cool thing is that all of our senses have evolved in their own unique way. Like pain, where the bigger signals are actually amplified to ensure that we would never ignore something that could potentially kill us. But sound sticks out because the way that it's processed comes at a cost. Quiet sounds are amplified to ensure that we hear that lion rustling in a bush, while larger sounds are compressed so that we aren't completely overwhelmed. Which makes sense, but there's a catch, because this compression of louder noises happens mostly in the brain. You see, the pupil can physically block out light before it enters, but your ears don't do the same thing with sound. So all that sound energy still hits the delicate structures inside your ears, and then your brain just sort of makes it quieter for you. So if you're at a loud concert, then your brain might be telling you that everything's fine, while your eardrums are getting absolutely blasted with sound energy. If this is all news to you, then you're not alone, but it's not your fault, because not only does your brain distort the true magnitude of noises, but so does the scale that we actually use to measure and talk about sound. A jet engine produces 100 billion times more sound energy than a whisper, but because it doesn't seem 100 billion times louder, we use a scale that's designed to mimic how our brains compress noise, known as decibels. And that's great because it's more intuitive, but if I'm told that a concert is 110 decibels compared to my quiet 40 decibel bedroom, then that 70-point gap seems small, when in reality, we're talking about 10 million times more sound energy hitting my ear. And once that energy destroys the tiny hairs in our ears that let us hear it all, they don't grow back, which leads to hearing loss. So with this knowledge, we should A, limit our time in loud environments, B, wear earplugs when necessary, C, stop trusting your brain so much, because it has been trapping you inside its simulated version of reality since the day you were born, taking incomplete sensory data, filling in the gaps, and presenting it back to you with such absolute confidence that you never thought to question it, meaning that every sound, every color, and every warm grain of sand that you've ever felt between your toes has only ever existed as a controlled hallucination inside your skull. And the worst part is that you have no way of knowing when your brain's lying to you, because the only thing that you've ever used to verify reality is the very thing deceiving you. And D, put a limit on your headphone volume inside your phone setting of 85 decibels.